almost 5 years now, my family's been doing something that we take more seriously than we probably should. See, before every major WWE and AEW pay-per-view, we all submit our predictions, and I put together a color-coded prediction sheet. Everybody picks who they think's gonna win the matches, and whoever gets the most predictions right wins a championship. Pretty simple, right? But somewhere along the way, this became a lot more than just making predictions before wrestling shows. It became a family tradition. Over the years, we've actually had 2 completely different championships. The first was this beautiful masterpiece right here. That's right, the Divas Championship. Zach surprised all of us with this bad boy on Christmas in 2021, and it stayed our active championship until after WrestleMania 39 in 2023. Shortly after that show, Zach passed away, and it didn't feel right to keep defending the title, so we retired the Divas Championship. The title now sits right here on the memorial stand for Zach, right next to the Money in the Bank briefcase, which is actually just an action figure storage bin, and they're both now a permanent fixture of the JTZ TV set. A few months later, at SummerSlam 2023, we introduced a new championship so that Zach would always be part of our tradition. The Zach Leidard Memorial Championship. And this is the championship we still compete for today. And entering SummerSlam 2026 this weekend, I'm the current champion. So, before we make our SummerSlam predictions, and before this championship is defended for the first time since the launch of JTZ TV, I wanted to tell you the full story. The story of how a few family members making wrestling predictions turned into championship reigns, Money in the Bank cash-ins, a few perfect prediction cards, and a whole lot of trash talk. But most importantly, one of my favorite traditions we've ever created. So let's go back to 2021, or maybe even a little before that, because Zach, Terrence, and I always really dipped our toes into predicting winners of pay-per-views due to some of our favorite wrestling YouTubers doing similar things. We actually did do a few prediction sheets for a couple of WrestleManias, but we didn't start taking things to the next level until 2021. Less than 2 weeks before my wife and I were set to get married, we hosted a RASSLIN watch party at our house to watch CM Punk's return to wrestling at AEW All Out. There was me, my wife, Terrence, his wife, and Zach. Before the show, I printed up a match card with open slots for everyone to pick a winner. We even toyed around with the idea of making this a regular thing, and, well, Zach took notes. A few months later, when Christmas rolled around, he gifted the group the Divas Championship, and moving forward, we declared that we would be making picks for the big 4 shows that AEW and WWE put on each year. So, those 4 shows being the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series for WWE, and Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear for AEW. The person who gets the most picks correct is the champion. And if there's a tie, just like in wrestling, champion's advantage, no title change. It was decided that All Out would be the official start of the lineage of our championship, so we rolled into 2022 with full force. And I rolled into 2022 with a reign that was already over 100 days long with 0 title defenses. But that was about to change when I retained my big, beautiful butterfly belt at the Royal Rumble and at Revolution, both times via tie. But at WrestleMania 38, I decisively lost the championship to Terrence's wife, Peyton. And then she lost the championship to my wife, Megan, at Double or Nothing. But before Megan's first title defense, we as a group decided to once again take things to the next level, this time with a Money in the Bank action figure carrying case. We set some rules for our Money in the Bank action figure case. The winner could only cash in on a pay-per-view that isn't part of our regular championship defense schedule, so a show that isn't part of the Big 4. When a cash-in occurs, only the person cashing in and the champion submit predictions. In the event of a tie, in this instance, there's a champion's disadvantage, meaning if there's a tie, new champ. And the Money in the Bank winner could hold the briefcase up until the very next Money in the Bank show the next year. After all of our rules were set, our first Money in the Bank winner was Zach, and he carried around that action figure carrying case proudly. And just before Peyton and Terrence were set to move to Colorado, Terrence won the Divas Championship from Megan at SummerSlam. And then he took the title damn near 2,000 miles away, all to lose it to me at All Out. After only holding the belt for 36 days, Terrence was salty and held my Divas Championship hostage. Not a week went by without a trash-talking Snapchat video from Terrence, but that didn't matter. What matters is that I was the champion again, even without my belt for a little bit. I went on to retain the title at Full Gear and Survivor Series, but when the Royal Rumble rolled around once again, it was time for the person who brought the belt into the tradition to finally win it. With Zach's win came the first perfect prediction sheet. It also came with a prediction from Zach that was so wild, Terrence and I still quoted a little too regularly. Gigi Dolan and her fat fucking butt. Now, you might wonder, how was it a perfect prediction sheet if Gigi Dolan and her fat fucking butt weren't even in the Royal Rumble? Well, for Royal Rumbles, we each get 2 picks for who we think will win the match. 1 confirmed participant and 1 unconfirmed participant. You know, just to keep things a little spicy. And Zach was well on his way to having his own reign of terror with both the Money in the Bank briefcase and the Divas Championship by retaining the title at Revolution and at WrestleMania 39. But the weekend after WrestleMania 39 is when we lost Zach. Like I said at the start of this video, it didn't feel right to continue doing these predictions for his belt, so we retired it, never to be defended again. In fact, my wife's parents were kind enough to restore the belt to its original glory after it had been banged up quite a bit from traveling to and from Colorado. They even put Zach's name on the nameplate so that he will forever be our Divas champion. A month after Zach passed, WWE held Backlash, and while it wasn't a big 4 show, me, Terrence, our wives, and my parents all watched it together, and I successfully picked all 7 matches correctly. So that was pretty special to me. After Backlash, my dad told the group that he ordered a new championship for us so that we could keep our tradition alive, and moving forward, he and my mom would start submitting predictions as well. Our new title, the Zack Leidard Memorial Championship, was set to have its first winner decided at SummerSlam. But before that was Money in the Bank. We also retired Zach's green Money in the Bank action figure carrying case, so we now use a blue Money in the Bank lunchbox. And the first winner of the lunchbox was my beautiful wife, Megan, who was carrying the power of pregnancy with her. She actually won a tiebreaker with my dad, which was settled with a good old-fashioned game of rock, paper, scissors. But my dad didn't stay down for long because at SummerSlam, he became the inaugural Zack Leidard Memorial Champion. But this championship must have brought the Attitude Era out of us because we started hot potatoing this thing around like crazy. You all should know by now that I don't lose at this show, so at All Out, I won the championship from my dad. I didn't hold it for too long though, because at Full Gear, Terrence won the championship from me. But hilariously, Terrence held the gold even shorter, for only 7 days in fact, as my mom won the championship at Survivor Series. And then she held on to the title for a while, with a reign clocking in at 133 days and successful title defenses at Royal Rumble and Revolution. My mom held the championship until WrestleMania 40. Just in time for another parental reign, this time from my dad, who beat my mom. Ooh, let's try that again. This time from my dad, who won the ZLMC from my mom. ZLMC is just an abbreviated way to say Zack Leidard Memorial Championship. After finishing his story at WrestleMania 40, my dad had a lengthy run with the gold. He retained the title at Double or Nothing, and then he was cashed in on. Literally, the last day that she could cash in, my wife cashed in her Megan in the Bank lunchbox at the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door show, and my dad was able to retain. So that's 0 for 1 for Money in the Bank cash-ins. But the very next day was another Money in the Bank show, meaning another opportunity to cash in the future. My mom, the big wrestling mark that she knows she is, walked away with the lunchbox with her eyes on the prize somewhere down the line. The next show was SummerSlam, and Peyton and Terrence had actually planned a surprise visit back home that weekend, so we finally got to watch some wrestling in person for the first time as a group since they moved to Colorado. And my dad retained, with him and my mom both successfully picking every single match right that night. But a month after SummerSlam was my show, the show I do not lose at, All Out. And guess what? I got all 12 matches right. I was ready to take my second reign of the ZLMC into the stratosphere. And then I lost to my dad at Full Gear during my first title defense. But just like the year before, Survivor Series was the week right after Full Gear, and my dad lost the ZLMC just after 7 days, just like Terrence did. This time, there was a 3-way tie that didn't include the defending champion, another first for us. So, the defending champion, he picked a number, Megan, Peyton, and Terrence all guessed, and whoever guessed the number closest to my dad's number would be our new champion. And when the dust settled, Terrence emerged victorious. And the reign of Terrence began. He retained at the Royal Rumble via tie. He retained at Revolution via tie. He retained at WrestleMania 41 via tie. His momentum was about as scary as his face, but my mom was not afraid. She decided to cash in her Mama in the Bank lunchbox at Backlash. But unfortunately for my mom, Terrence predicted every single match right. 0 for 2 for Money in the Bank cash-ins. A few weeks later was Double or Nothing, and at this show, the 176-day reign of Terrence came to an end. There was a tie for the most correct picks between my mom and my dad ended up winning the tiebreaker and winning the ZLMC for a 4th time. The next show was Money in the Bank, and in the spirit of keeping girl power alive, Peyton won the Money in the Bank lunchbox, being the winner of a 4-way tiebreaker. So we had also decided during the Money in the Bank predictions that the current champion would also not submit picks. The next show was SummerSlam, and it was the first time the biggest party of the summer was spread over 2 nights, and when the weekend was over, my mom won the ZLMC for the 2nd time. Now, usually after SummerSlam is about that time of year where championships just start gravitating towards this guy because I don't lose at All Out. But in 2025, we decided to skip All Out due to Terrence's little sister Kelsey getting married. I'll see you next month, All Out 2026. Moving right along, Terrence ended up winning the ZLMC from my mom at Full Gear and broke the curse of losing the following week when he retained at Survivor Series with a perfect 4 predictions. And speaking of a perfect 4 predictions, my mom ended up swiping the title right back from Terrence at the Royal Rumble when she correctly guessed the winner of every single match. And then things got pretty wild. See, Peyton watched as my mom ended 2 of Terrence's 3 reigns with the ZLMC, and she couldn't let this crime go unpunished. Oh no. So, at Elimination Chamber 2026, she cashed in her Peyton in the Bank lunchbox and won! Our first successful cash-in. Now, all while that was happening, Megan was waiting to strike. And at Revolution, she ended up winning the ZLMC from Peyton, just like she won the Divas Championship from her back in 2022. The following month at WrestleMania 42, I beat my wife. Gotta stop that. I won the ZLMC from my wife. You know, the show where Zach's name was on the canvas for night 2. And then I successfully retained at Double or Nothing via tie. So, that brings us to now. SummerSlam 2026 weekend. The first prediction showdown since the launch of JTZ TV. And this is where Terrence and I have decided to raise the stakes for our family predictions. See, between the 2 of us, now whoever correctly picks the winners of more matches each time we make predictions will get the honor of writing a specialized, humiliating top 10 wrestling list video that'll be published to YouTube. And the person who isn't writing the script, aka the dummy who knows nothing about wrestling, will have to read the list. Just a reminder, we do this 9 times a year. Things are gonna get a little weird. But all of that is our history. Our family tradition that will continue on in honor of Zach, similar to this channel, and I'm so proud to have shared it all with you. Moving forward, our prediction sheets will be shared across our social platforms ahead of the event and after the dust settles so that you can keep up with us as we continue on with our family tradition. So be sure to give us a follow wherever you decide to stamp your digital footprint, and while you're here, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell, you know, that whole thing. I do want to say thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Scooby Deuces. Oh, actually, real quick, Terrence, you a bitch!